Hi, I'm Jessica Sharp from Tracks WA. I'm very privileged to be talking to Rebecca Carbone, who is a survivor of an ABI and a stroke. She will talk to us on how goal setting has impacted, influenced, and supported her on her rehabilitation journey. Let's go and talk to her now. Okay. Rebecca, thank you for coming in today and chatting with us. We really appreciate that you've come back, and I know you've been on a huge journey from nearly 4 years ago when you had your tumour, which then ended up in your stroke, which you were 4 years ago not walking, not talking.
Locked-in syndrome, essentially.
Yeah, to now where you are today.
Yes.
And look at you, you're
yes.
gorgeous. So I'd like you to start with, if you could talk a little bit around what happened 4 years ago in your diagnosis, so we can get a little bit of a picture of where you come from to understand where you are now and how goal setting's been such a huge part of that journey and your journey.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. So 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with a brain tumour. It was the week of my best friend's engagement party, and she asked me to be her bridesmaid. I was so excited. In fact, I actually missed the engagement party because at that time I had had my second small stroke and didn't know what it was. So she asked me to be her bridesmaid, and then 4 days later I was diagnosed. That was the day she was buying her wedding dress. When she rang me, she goes, "Beck, guess what? I got my wedding dress." I said, "That's fantastic. How'd you go to the doctors?" I was like, "I have brain cancer." She's like, "Oh, that's a bit disturbing considering I just bought my wedding dress." And instead of being a happy celebration, it was, "Come over, we'll have a cup of coffee and talk," and we did. So I was in surgery about a week later after that. It was pretty quickly. And I was under for about 10 hours, and the tumour was partially resected, and I had a stroke later that evening. I came out of surgery perfectly fine, perfectly normal. My speech was okay. I passed all the assessments by the physiotherapist and occupational therapist and by the medical team. And I had a stroke later that evening or early that morning, the next morning. I don't know when it happened, but I know at 5 a.m. the next morning on the Sunday I was rushed in for a CT scan and then rushed into emergency surgery. My neurosurgeon was called and I was under for about 7 or 8 hours again. And my family were called to say, "You need to come down right now. Rebecca might not make it." So my family and my best friend also came down and they sat there waiting, and eventually I came out and I was alive, but I didn't wake up till the next day. I was still not unconscious, but I wasn't awake. So I was in ICU for about a month. I have no memory of ICU, thankfully, and eventually I was moved to the ward at Murdoch, and I was there for about 2 weeks. At the time, no one knew what to do with me, as my parents were told that I wouldn't be able to move or speak ever again, and they were advised that I would need to be moved to a nursing home as I'd lost everything. And my parents refused. They were dragged into a meeting and told by the medical professionals, "Look, you need to consider moving Rebecca to a nursing home as she needs 24-hour care." And Mum cried. My dad stood up, little tiny man that he is, and pointed at them and said, "You do not effing know my daughter." Picked up my mum and walked out, and they refused to move me to a nursing home. So I waited on the ward, and I was assessed by someone from Fiona Stanley, and they had assessed me as being unable to be rehabilitated. So I waited there again for a couple more days, and my neurosurgeon actually organised for them to take me because they couldn't keep me on the ward indefinitely. So I was in rehab for about 2 months, and I went to my daily rehab every day, my speech therapy, my occupational therapy, my physiotherapy, and I remember not knowing why I couldn't move or why no one could understand me, because when you speak, even though it's completely unintelligible to everyone else, you don't actually hear that. You hear yourself as what you've been hearing for the last 20, 30 odd years, which was me. And that's what I could hear. And I remember getting so frustrated that people would not understand what I was saying. And I couldn't work out why I couldn't move. And because no one told me what had happened, it was all this was the effect, which it was, the effect of the brain surgery. And this is what happened. So my GP came one evening on a Friday, after he finished. He was working in Fremantle at the time, and he stopped by to see me. And I remember asking him, I'm like, I wasn't prepared for this. I thought I was going to have surgery and go home. And he looks at me and he goes, Rebecca, you had a stroke. And I said, oh. Well, that makes sense why I can't move. And it was so embarrassing, so utterly embarrassing, no dignity, not being able to do anything for yourself. It's just the worst feeling imaginable. You can't communicate, you can't go to the toilet by yourself. And that was one thing that I remember. The very first memory I have of Brenda Stanley is 2 nurses walking me to the toilet, and they pulled my pants down and sat me down, put the call-bell in my hand, my finger on it, and said, here, press this when you're finished. They had to wipe me. That was utterly humiliating. I remember sitting there thinking, I'm 30 years old, what the hell has happened? And to be honest, it was the sheer embarrassment of having to have someone help me pull up your pants that made me think, I need to do something about it. So I literally, this wasn't even part of my therapy at that point, was I forced myself, I don't know how, to pull up my own pants, because that was utterly humiliating. So I went to a re-therapy session. I had speech, OT and physio every day, except for the weekends. Then I only had OT on the Saturdays. And basically started from the very beginning. Speech therapy was starting on, I think, 2-letter words at that point. OT was trying to move my arm and my right hand, especially as I'm right-handed. Physio was doing these exercises, which would be great for a flat stomach, but they were for walking. And I first did the Berg with the physio. My first score was 13, and that's a balance test. And by the time I finished rehab, outpatient rehab, I did it again, and I was 53 out of 54, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. So really all of that was you going, I need to start doing things by myself, from that moment of I can't go to the toilet on my own to I need to start doing this physio and speech. It was all about I need to be able to be there for my best friends.
Yes.
That was your main goal at that time. I need to be able to get out to do that. No.
At that point, I remember I could speak, or everyone could understand my family and my best friend who were there every day, multiple times a day. Eventually they learned to understand me, and I could probably become a little bit clearer. And I thought, I can't be at this wedding in a year, less than a year by then. And how am I going to get down the aisle? I can't even sit in a wheelchair. I couldn't even sit straight in bed. How am I going to be in this wedding? So I remember tugging my friend's dress at the time, it was summer, and saying, Shall pick someone else to be your bridesmaid. And eventually she understood what I was trying to say. And she said, why? I said, I can't come down the aisle like this. What if this is it? And she said, no. I said, well, I don't know what's happening. No one knows what's happening. And she said, I want you there. I don't care if you are in a wheelchair or if I have to drag you down myself. You'll get down the aisle. I want you there as bridesmaid at my wedding. I said, okay, well, I better get cracking onto rehab. And that was a huge motivator. I told everyone, I think every single nurse in the ABI ward knew, my therapist knew, anyone who would talk to me for 5 minutes knew, the people from Serco delivering my food knew, everyone knew that I had a wedding and I had to walk down the aisle or else.
So it was really your ultimate goal.
Yes.
That led you to going, this is what's going to help me through my rehab.
Yes.
Is knowing that I have to walk down the aisle at my best friend's wedding with a cane or without.
Yes, especially as the wedding was in Noosa. And I thought, and I had to be able to get on a plane. I thought, at that time, I didn't know that wheelchairs could get on and off a plane. I'm not having experience with wheelchairs at that time. But I was like, I need to get on a plane. I need to be able to pack a bag, get to the airport. I'm like, how am I going to do this? Oh, well, I better get better because I have no choice but to get better. And I'm not ruining her photos with a wheelchair or a walking stick. So that was it. Anyone who listened to me for 5 minutes knew, and they knew the whole story, and I told absolutely everyone. And you know what, I'm sure people thought that was never possible as well. I'm sure in the back of their heads, not saying in a horrible way, but because I was so incapacitated by this stroke and by that brain tumour, the partial resection of it, I'm sure they thought this is never going to happen, or you know, that kind of smiled and nodded sadly. I remember that, thinking that, you know, that's good you have a goal, but it's, you know, not going to happen. Or perhaps they misunderstood my tenacity, I guess, or because not many people do recover. And that's the sad thing.
So do you feel like some of the staff didn't necessarily believe it was possible, but still let you have that ultimate goal because it was helping with your short-term steps of getting you to where you needed to go? So what were some of those short-term steps that got you to walking down the aisle at your best friend's wedding?
Well, first, going to the bathroom unaided, because that is a big thing.
Yes.
Secondly, dressing myself, that was something that I had to learn, because how was I going to put myself in a dress for the wedding? Then it became showering and personal care and eventually shaving my legs and speaking, because I thought, how can I be at a wedding and not speak? I talk a lot. So I needed to be able to speak. Putting just little things. I wanted to be able to help my best friend with her wedding as well. So, you know, being able to, doing your bridesmaidly duties the few days before, so being able to move my hand, especially because my right hand just wouldn't move. Or it would move, but it'd be shaking like that. My arm, I could not hold it still. It just shook. I had no control over it. Was paramount. Because if I couldn't do these things, then how was I going to be in Noosa for a wedding?
Wow. And did that end up happening?
Yes, it did. I had a beautiful holiday in Queensland. I managed to get down the aisle. I clung to my partner down the aisle. I actually met them the night before, and because these boys are flying in from work, and I came out with my walking stick and I said, I swear, I'm not drunk. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit disappointing. You're on holiday. You should be. I said, no, sadly, I've had a stroke. I'm not allowed to drink. And I guess that put them at ease because I made a joke. And I explained, look, I don't know. Even till the night before, actually, even till that morning, I still didn't know if I could make it down the aisle. So I explained what happened. I said, look, I may need help. I really would like to. This is my goal. It has been. I've been working towards this all year. I really not want my cane in the photos. Now, my best friend was fantastic. She organised for flat shoes to be worn, and she organised a chair at the front of the wedding as well, so I could sit down for the ceremony. So it was right at the tucked away, and then someone moved it to the front when I needed to sit down. She kept an eye on me the whole time, actually, in the middle of saying her vows. But then she said, okay, well, as soon as you can walk with a cane, I'm going to switch. Do you mind if I switch wedges? And I said, okay, that's cool. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to walk in her heels. So the wedges weren't about that big. So, which was huge when you can't walk very well. And I managed down the aisle, holding onto my partner in those wedges without my cane.
What an achievement.
It was. I was not supposed to drink for a year after my surgery. That made it about 3 weeks off the year, but I did have some champagne to celebrate. I mean, it was good champagne, so why not?
That is a huge celebration of reaching your ultimate goal. A year, nearly 3 weeks off a year from having surgery, to be able to walk, talk, dress yourself, shower yourself, be there at your best friend's wedding in another state and walking down the aisle in wedges.
Yes.
What an achievement.
Thank you.
So that's huge to have got there with that. It really shows how when you have that vision of this is where you want to go, how it can really push your therapy to getting there and push your own values of going, I'm going to keep going with my physio, with my speech, with my treatment every day to get you there.
Yes, definitely.
So then what happened when you got home from the wedding, when you'd completed that goal, you'd done what you needed to do? What happened when you got home, and how did you get yourself out of bed the next day?
Well, firstly, I had to thank my amazing therapy team. I had quite a few over that year, and the fact that they were encouraging and didn't laugh, I mean, they probably thought in the back of their mind, as I'm sure everyone did, because I was so incapacitated, that this might not happen. But no one laughed at me. No one said you can't do it. No one even shut me up after speaking about it, endlessly for months and months. So I got home and I was exhausted. I think I slept for a few days after because it was very exhausting. I woke up and I thought, well, that's my goal. What now? And it was depressing to think, okay, so, because you're on such an adrenaline high and then you drop, and I was thinking, okay, what do I do now? And I remember thinking to myself, around that time, I thought, well, athletes always say once they've achieved that goal, the ultimate goal of winning the gold medal at the Olympics or whatever it may be, or the Nobel Peace Prize, or whatever goal anyone has, everyone comments that they have that job and they think, right, I've reached and I can't do anything more than what I've done, that goal, it's done. What do I do now? And I thought, well, okay. So I kept going to therapy, and earlier that year before the wedding, I had joined an online Facebook community. When I could read again, I joined it because I wanted some social interaction. I was too embarrassed to leave the house. I did have friends come see me, but because I couldn't speak, I didn't want to see anyone, so I kept in contact with a lot of people via Facebook. I joined this online community of women, and it's actually in the pin post. It's still going. We do not tolerate bullying. We do not tolerate any negativity towards each other. And it was centred around one of my main interests, which is vintage and pin-up. So I joined the pin-up community, and I kept chatting for, over a year.
Sounds like it was very supportive.
Yes.
Accepting community.
They were, because there was an introduction thread at the time. There was only about 50 odd members. Now there's nearly 1,000. And there's always an introduction post where you introduce yourself, and I said, hi, my name's Rebecca, I've had a stroke, I've had brain surgery, I can't talk properly, I use a walking stick, I'm in rehab, I don't want to see anyone, that's why I come to meetups. But being in that community and seeing photos of all these women, hair, beautiful makeup and beautiful clothes that really motivated me. So the next goal was lose weight, because I'm put on over 30 kilos with the dexamethasone, do my hair, makeup, all things like that, because I thought, well, I'm not 100%, I'm not where I was before. I'm 100% better from where I was from the stroke, but I wasn't better to what I was in my previous life. So I thought, okay, hair, makeup, shave my legs, get back into my beautiful wardrobe. I have a very beautiful wardrobe. I was obsessed with clothes. And getting back into all that. So that became my next goal, was to, okay, well, they say I'm never going to look like this again. Well, how do I say without swearing?
You were going to show them.
Yeah, pretty much.
So really your next goal was then, I want to be able to do my own makeup, I want to do my own hair.
Yes.
And I want to be able to fit back into my wardrobe again.
And that was quite motivated by the pin-up community. And then it was announced that Dita Von Teese was coming to Perth for a very first show. Dita Von Teese is a very famous burlesque artist, and I love Dita, she's my queen, and I thought they were having a meet-up beforehand, drinks, and my partner bought me tickets because I really wanted to go. And I thought, great, I have to go. I'm going to this meet-up, so I need to get ready and lose some weight and do my hair and do my makeup. And that was in 2015. So by then she came about, because I think the tour was announced about 6 months before she came, or 7 months before she came. So the tour was announced late 2014. The meetup was set up then because we all had to buy tickets on the same night. And then we had the event in 2015. It was at Buster Theatre, so I thought, okay, I need to be into a beautiful dress, I need to be able to do my hair and makeup, and I need to be able to go to this meetup looking good because everyone else does. And luckily for me, they were very supportive, and they still are to this day, because I know that sometimes I have bad days, there are times I can't do my hair and makeup. And that was my motivation, was meeting these women, which I had never met in my life, other than online. And most of them are models, dancers, photographers, they're all in those creative industries. So it was important to me that I'd look good. Yes. And especially to sing my Queen Dita. I mean, I could not go in jeans and a t-shirt. That would be dishonouring her. Yeah. So that was my next goal. That was your next goal. That's amazing. So really you just, once you conquered one goal, you went, okay, what's my next one? Yes. I remember the first time I met you, which was probably now nearly a year ago. Yes. Is that right? Yes. When we met, you said, this is the first time I've just got my licence. So that must have been then one of your next goals, to be able to re-get your licence again and regain your
independence.
That was the overarching goal, was to get my license, to regain my independence, and get back to working in some capacity, whether it be volunteering or actually working.
So where are you now? So your overall ultimate goal then, since the wedding and recovery, was I want to be independent.
Yes.
I want to be able to drive.
Yes.
I want to be able to study or get back into my own work again.
Yes.
And my understanding has also been about making a difference to other people who have experienced ABIs and what you can do. So what's happened with that goal where you're at now?
During my convalescence as such, or recovery, my whole family, in fact, realised there isn't much out there for young ABI sufferers. I refuse to use the word victim. We're not victims. We just suffer from ABI, because victim is victimising language, and if you're going to use negative language, you're not going to get anywhere.
ABI survivor?
ABI survivor. Yes, that is actually what I call myself, ABI survivor, stroke survivor, everything survivor. Brain tumour fighter, as I still have brain tumours. I was re-diagnosed 6 months later, and these ones are inoperable, but they're stable, thank goodness. We realised there was nothing out there. So that became my goal, was to, these people need help. And the more research and reading I did surrounding ABI and recovery and neuroplasticity, the more I realised that an ABI is so common these days, especially car accidents, extreme sports. It can be anything, right down to a concussion, which that shocked me, because I thought, wow, a concussion, I'm sure I've had in my lifetime before, and didn't suffer from an ABI, but some people do. And I thought, this must be so common amongst younger people. I won't say young adults, because you're in my 30s, but younger people especially, because everyone has this idea that stroke or brain tumours or brain cancer or anything brain related is far older. We're talking maybe young would be 60s, and the average survivor would be 70s, 80s. Even when I was being prepped for surgery the day before, they didn't have a shaver to shave my head, to put electrodes on this, they map my brain, because I remember the stuff were like, we normally do this on older men. And they had to go out and buy razors to shave my head, to put these electrodes in, because they were so shocked that someone so young could be so ill and be there for such a series of surgery. So I remember we spoke to, or my parents spoke to, because I refused to use the phone at that point, social workers, hotlines, everyone you can think of. There was just nothing for younger people. I mean, you had your under 18s who suffered from other disabilities who was thought in some way, but there was nothing from, say, 18 to even 50, because it's such a unspoken about thing, and people don't realise that there's nothing for us. So that became a goal, was well, there's been nothing for me, and I've been a pioneer of sorts, because no one has recovered as well as I have. And I say that after doing a lot of reading, a lot of research. There's just nothing. And this internationally, finding stroke blogs, speaking to people overseas even, no one has recovered as well as I have, to the point of, not to toot my own horn, but to the point of where you can drive again, where you can present yourself as, this is what happened 4 years ago, and people don't believe you because that looks nothing like you, or they can't tell. And I get that so often when I meet people now. They'll say, what do you do? I'll say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing, and I've been saying this all the time, and used to be more at the moment, and I still am, to be honest, rehabilitating from a stroke, for an API, and everyone goes, what's that? What's an API? Acquired brain injury. Oh, how did that happen? Well, I had brain surgery and I had a stroke and more tumours were found, blah, blah, this was my story. And I can guarantee you, every single person up until now and for the rest of my life will go, really? I'll say, yeah, here's my photos of when I had no hair, when my hair was shaved off, and I was really upset my hair was shaved. Oh, I have beautiful hot pink hair and it was shaved off.
It's beautiful and dark now.
Oh, thank you. But it's still not pink, but it doesn't matter.
So people didn't believe that would be where you'd come from. And I think that that's really to do with what you set yourself and how much you've strived to be who you are today. Because you've had these goals and all these steps have set you towards, it's important for you to recover. It was important for you to now be, and my understanding is you were just telling me that you're now doing about to start a study course to be able to support other people going through it. Is that right?
So this year I got my licence back and I've trained to be a therapy assistant with the AMA. I am also studying to be a life coach, and I do motivational speaking, talking about my story. And recently, a couple of days ago, I was accepted into a lived experience educator program run at Curtin Uni by the Health Sciences Department, I believe, and it is to train you to volunteer with occupational therapy and speech therapy students. So that's pretty awesome. I'm really excited about that one. So
that's amazing. So really all of this is your journey to wanting to support other people who have gone on this journey to help them say, this is what you can do. This is what I've done, and you can actually demonstrate how you've set goals to be where you've got to, and you can then be that lived experience.
Yes.
So you'll be sharing your story with other students.
Exactly. I'll be sharing my story with students. I share my story with clinicians, with tracks. I will share my story with anyone because it's so important not to give up.
And you've influenced through the TRACS WA, through training and development in subacute care in WA. You've now presented, I think 4 times, where you've come and told your story to clinicians in WA who are working as speech pathologists, as physios, as social workers, who are working with people who have had strokes, who have had ABIs, who have then gone, wow, this is what's achievable when we support them. And I think that that's really also giving insight for them in saying it doesn't matter what their goal is if we don't believe it. We need to support their ultimate goal, because look what can actually happen.
Exactly. I truly believe is making a difference, because, I mean, it's all good and well for me to say now to clinicians and even other ABR survivors that, look, you know, this is where I come from, because people don't believe that this is how bad it actually was until they see the proof. And then they're like, oh, okay, so this is what you did. And I'll show them the tracks video on YouTube of that I was in 3 years ago that was filmed at Umbrella Hospital. And I'll show them and they'll go, that's you. And I'll say, yeah, I've got the tattoos. You can see the tattoos in the video. And they'll go, wow. And I'll say, yeah, look, this is where I come from, and if I can do it, then you can do it. And it's all about setting your goals, keeping motivated, and it's hard. It is hard to stay motivated. I mean, I still have my bad days. Sadly, we all do. No matter what happens, I make it a goal to myself. If I make it, and I think, you know, it's all too much, I will make it a goal. Okay, today you can be upset, you can eat chocolate, you can just do nothing, but tomorrow we have to get back going because you have a lot of things to do, which I do. I'm way too busy. But even that, just making that one tiny little goal, that makes a difference. There's such a huge risk of attempting suicide, and people like me who can't cope with having what I call an acquired disability, and they end up in the mental health system or in psych wards because they just can't cope. They've tried to kill themselves because they just don't have that hope. Yes, okay, great, this has happened, but there's nothing out there to show, okay, great, this is where I can be. I can get my life back. It's all doom and gloom. And that's not coming essentially from the clinicians, but just the society in general. There's nothing you can do. So that's it. You're done. And that really upsets me.
Yeah.
Knowing that people out there have ended up in the mental health system
Because they've given up hope.
They've given up hope, or they've ended up with AOD addictions or anything terrible. I mean, there are so many horrible stories of people, or even those who've ended up in a nursing home, especially. And my partner's auntie had a stroke at 33 in their 70s, and she had locked-in syndrome, and she died about 6 years ago in a nursing home.
So you're like, that's not going to happen to me.
No, and even now, every time I think of her, I still cry because I know she was still there mentally, cognitively, but she couldn't move. She couldn't even change the TV channel. I mean, the poor woman spent 30 odd years laying in bed, and she couldn't even change the TV because she didn't like what she was watching. She couldn't communicate, and that makes me cry even now. And I cry for all the people, because she was young when it happened. I cry for all the people now, and all the people then who had that hope and they had that access to rehabilitation, because unfortunately the system is so overworked that you need to show that you are willing to work.
Yes.
Otherwise, the clinicians and the medical system will move on to the next person. They don't have time to sit there and encourage you every time. It's okay, you have to show that you're willing to work. I remember when Ruth came to the house, and I'm like, oh, did you do your homework? I said, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Asked a question. And one of them just looked at me, she goes, you did your homework? I said, yeah, isn't that what I'm supposed to do? But I have no choice.
Yeah.
And she goes, people don't do their homework. We normally
have to keep encouraging them.
Yeah, and she goes, normally we'll come once or twice, and by then people just don't want to work with us, and we'll say, here's our card, please call us back when you're ready.
Yes.
Because we can't spend time sitting there. There are so many people on the wait list.
So what would be the key messages if you had to think about for other people with ABIs? I mean, you've talked about, seems like what you had was hope, a vision that I'm not going to stay like this, I'm not going to go into a nursing home and be like that forever. I'm going to go to my best friend's wedding and walk down the aisle. So you had hope, you had a vision, you had this ultimate goal, and then from that, one of the statements that you said to me before is around it's a wish or it's a dream until you write it down.
Yes, a goal is a wish or a dream until you make a plan to put it into.
Until you write it down? I think it was that. It's a dream until you write it down.
It's a hope or a dream until you.
Yeah, to hope or a dream until you write it down. I think that's what you used to say. So what I'm interested in is what you...
a goal without a plan or a purpose is a wish. There we go.
Yeah, a goal without a hope or a wish.
A goal without a purpose or a plan is a wish. And I didn't just wish to get better. I planned to get better, and I worked to get better. Now, I was very lucky. I had hope, I had a vision, I had motivation. I also had a fantastic support system, and not only did I have massively supportive rehab therapists, but my medical team, my GP, and my parents especially. Now, I know I'm very lucky that most people don't have the support that I did, but that doesn't matter. I remember it was about a week after I got home. I already had Ruth come once, and I couldn't read at the time. I was blind. I could only see my peripheral vision. And my dad put me aside and he goes, all right, so we need to do your homework. We need to practice every day or twice a day. And I said, no. And he goes, because you're not going to get better if you don't do your rehab. I said, but they come once a week. He said, that's not enough. You have to do it as much as you can, multiple times a day. So, because I couldn't see, I said, okay, well, I can't see. How am I going to do it? And he said, I'll help you. But you make a decision now. If you want to get better, you will try, and I'll help you. But if you're not going to put in the effort, I never want to hear another word again. And I know my dad, and that is... He was setting his foot down, so it wasn't doing much, but I knew that he was serious. So I said, well, great, I need to get better. And I remember actually Mum saying to me a few months later that she always used to say, you're someone just like your father, when I was a kid. And then she turned around and said, you know what, lucky you are stubborn like your father, because if this happened to your sister, she would have died. She goes, I would have died.
So, Rebecca, you seem to be on such a journey through it all, where goal setting's been such a huge part of your whole journey that's got you from where you were 4 years ago to where you are now.
Yes.
What advice would you give to other health clinicians that might be seeing other ABI survivors? What advice would you give to them around how they should be or what they should say?
Firstly, I would suggest that no matter what the goal is, be encouraging. You may in your head think there's no way in hell it's going to happen, but not to destroy hope. Hope is a precious thing, and we should never, ever, ever destroy someone's hope in their dream. Secondly, I would also suggest finding activities, tailoring the activities more towards the patient's interests. Now, I know that there are some activities you need to do, but that's also something that helps keep them motivated. Now, motivation needs to come, I believe, needs to come from the health professionals to do the homework. So, because if I hadn't had therapists who believed in me, then that would have made a massive difference in my journey. I was lucky, one of my speech therapists, in the course of conversation, it came out that I like poetry. So one of my speech exercises was, instead of repeating lists of words, I got poems and passages from books and songs. And instead of doing my, finding the spaces where to pause, because I had to learn how to speak, and that was one of the things, I would do that in a poem. Or where to emphasise or intonation, I learnt that purely from poetry, repeating those things. So because that was an interest of mine, it kept me more motivated to do my therapy, which in turn helped my goal setting. Because I had this goal, I had this interest, why not combine them?
Yes.
And combine the rehab, so you're keeping the patient motivated and interested, because I can tell you what, when you can't walk or speak or move or do anything, you're pretty damn bored. So why not give them something that is something that they enjoy doing, which will make the sessions more exciting for the patient, but also it adds a bit of interest for the clinician as well, because they get to see their patient moving forward. And that is something that I think everyone said to me, how awesome it is to see patients improving.
So really for the clinician to find out what matters.
Exactly.
To their patient. What are their interests? What are their values?
Exactly.
And
build that rapport. Make it. Another thing was that I had fantastic rapport with my clinicians because I talk a lot. Unfortunately. Or fortunately, actually, because my speech therapist said to me, she goes, Rebecca, it's a good thing you speak a lot.
you get a lot of practice.
Exactly, because she said most of the time we have to encourage people to practice their speech. Even if it's to their cat, their dog, to a stuffed toy, we have to encourage them to learn how to speak, because even if you're not repeating your exercises, speaking to another person is practice.
Yes.
So that was, luckily for me, I'm chatting, so I chat to everyone. Also, so that whole idea of goal setting, taking that into account from the patient's point of view is a fantastic thing. One of the most important things is celebrating your successes and finding something to celebrate every day. It might be something as simple as carrying your jug of water or carrying a cup of coffee without spilling, saying a sentence clearly. It could be something so simple, but to celebrate every single positive achievement also helps you with that mindset that, wow, I'm getting somewhere. Great, that's a small goal achieved. And that encourages you to stick with your big goals. Now, they might seem like very small achievements or very small everyday actions that we do without thinking, but to someone with an OBL, that's huge. And to celebrate it, I would put them on Facebook and go, today I carried a glass of water without spilling. Now, it sounds so simple, but just putting it on there helps also make me keep accountable, because people would comment, wow, that's amazing, because they had seen where I come from. And having people celebrate with me, even, it sounds so simple, but even something so small made such a huge difference to my overall perspective and overall rehabilitation, because celebrating that small thing, great, I did that today, I can do that tomorrow, and if I can do that tomorrow, what else can I do tomorrow? And so on. I'd also say a goal without a purpose or a plan is a wish or a dream. You need a purpose. I could say anything, but say I want to go on a round the world trip, but if I'm not saving for it or making plans for it, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to be able to get on that plane and travel. I'm going to be sitting, well, not here, but sitting somewhere in Perth in a few months because I haven't done anything to work towards that goal. It's exactly the same idea in rehab. I also, for patients, I'd say never give up and find those tiny little things. I know it's hard, and you know what, there were days where I didn't want to go to rehab. I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to do anything. Trust me, there were plenty of times where I whinged and moaned and didn't want to do my therapy, didn't want to do my physio, I didn't want to go for a walk, I didn't want to leave the house, I didn't want to put on my track pants because I couldn't wear clothes for a long time. I had to wear day clothes because my skin hurt. Just anything that touched it was so painful. But I still did it. I made myself do it because I thought, well, if I miss today, then tomorrow is another excuse. And then you just keep making excuses. And if you stop, it is harder to get yourself motivated to start again, rather than thinking, okay, I'll go to rehab for half an hour, or I'll just drive there, or get driven there. I'll go for 5 minutes and say, look, I'm not feeling well, I need to go home. rather than stay in bed or not go at all.
Mm.
And the same thing could be applied to anything. Smoking, dieting. If you don't celebrate those small achievements, and yes, and recognise that you are going to have bad days. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
I would also encourage clinicians and patients to look for any mental health support. If clinicians recognise that their patients need or could do with some mental health support, be it counselling, peer support, go to anything social, whatever, seeing a psychologist, psychiatrist, I highly recommend that be mentioned.
Mm.
Because mental health plays a massive part in rehabilitation. For patients, I would say there's nothing wrong with seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I have done my self-adjustment therapy. I still see a psychologist because there's so much grief.
Mm.
Even now, even though you could look at me and say, wow, she looks fine, there is so much grief over my lost life.
Mm-hmm.
There are dreams I've lost, and they may never happen, but I have new dreams.
Mm.
And I like the analogy of when people ask me what it's like. I use the analogy, and I actually thought of it in one of my speeches, I think I threw it in there, was to describe the before and after of an ABR survivor. Is like you have a mirror and you smash it. You can't repair it, but you can recreate something out of it.
Mm.
And you can recreate something even more beautiful than what was originally. And that is how I started my Facebook page, Create Your Masterpiece, because you can create a masterpiece with the shattered remains of your life.
Yeah, and I think you absolutely have created a masterpiece.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, you think about your story and understand your journey going through it all, and to think about what you've created in yourself now. That 4 years ago you weren't looking at making this huge difference in people's lives, of sharing your story to help other ABR survivors. That wasn't your path.
No.
And the path you're now on is really about helping humanity and helping others reach their dreams and their ultimate goals, and supporting other clinicians to be able to support other people the way that you've been supported.
Yes, because that's the biggest way to make a difference.
Yeah.
Is to speak to everyone that I can. And if it helps that one person or prevents that one person ending up in a nursing home for 40 years, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I would be so happy if there was just one person that it changed their life.
Mm. Well, thank you for. I think that you have created a masterpiece in who you are, and thank you for sharing your story and your journey today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. That was gorgeous.